parents are not making use of these things, then you can then have legislation to say, if you don't do this, we have provided this, then this is a penalty. For example, this also hurts me because one, I'm a woman and I was once a teenage girl. If a girl is raped, it's so sad in Nigeria. There's a girl that feels the shame. She's the one the society castigates. What of the offender? It's the offender that should have the shame and not the victim. We should begin to have a reorientation. When there is a rape victim, the rape victim should be hailed for speaking up. She should be encouraged and let the offender be put down seriously and punished severely for tampering with that child's destiny. When you rape a girl, you've affected her destiny for life. It's the greatest corruption that the federal government has to deal with. And you know, Mr. President has said oftentimes that if you don't kill corruption, it kills you. If you don't kill corruption of the teenage girl by eroding her of her rights, not empowering her economically, this country is going to die one day because you're killing your seed.
We don't want the country to die.
That's the truth.
If I may quickly add to Oceans, why I insist that society has responsibility.
Yes.
There is this beggars village somewhere in Ebute Meta. I had a project there sometime, and then Lagos State government built a school. That, okay, you guys, please let your children go to school. So that at least we can be sure that maybe in the next 30 years, we'll be rid of this. What they do, because government tried to do some measure of enforcement and incentive, what they do is that they allow the kids to go to school from, say, 8 a.m. Once it's 9 a.m., those kids come out to take their fathers or mothers to go and beg. Now, if you allow that, that's a vicious cycle. We'll never be out of this begging and what have you. So, when you look at the Alhaji Lateef Jakonde model, when he came into power and he decided, okay, we are not going to have a two-layer school system where you have afternoon and morning. So there was a 3-month holiday, and within that 3 months, he invested heavily in building. The target was make school within a walking distance of every child. So government with seriousness, with serious plan, with determination, it's going to be tough. But if you get everybody on board, citizens, corporate organization, and I mean, there are people in displaced people's camps, there are people in refugee camps, and people go there with love and care. They provide some form of education. We can actually achieve
we have to go. Yeah. But again, I'll read out tweets, comments coming in, and then you give their closing remarks, right? That's okay with you. Okay. Gabriel says, while that social education is ongoing and awareness is created, a law to limit maximum 10 kids and minimum 2 kids is vital. That's from Gabriel. I09 maximum.
It's wicked.
Minimum 2.
Oh my God.
I09 says, proper education and family planning will go a long way. Adebi again says, legislation that limits number of children per woman to 3 is required. Pay tax on any child in excess of the limit.
Wow.
Adebayo says our population is an asset if properly managed and proactively harnessed.
That's true.
Ayo9 says, when you give birth to 4, 5, 6, your resources couldn't take care of them, isn't good at all.
That's true.
Yeah,
so in closing, before you see men marry more wives just to have more children so that they can work on the farm. Now we have this population. How can we ensure that for those in the rural areas, they actually try to stay back and ensure that our agriculture is boosted in that way?
And we shouldn't make rural people feel that, okay, we need you to just stay in the farm. Okay. They must have full potential at life. I mean, they must have full opportunities. I encountered a Nigerian professor out of somewhere in Germany, and he lives in a village. In that village, I asked, how come you live here? He said, look, despite the fact that this is a village, in Germany, a villager has access to everything. And if you don't, you can actually take government to court. So here in Nigeria, and the wicked thing about politicians, when they are contesting for offices, they actually have population sense. They know the demographics. They know this area.
They know the way to those.
But once they are in power, they forget about that. So they don't use it for planning. So the thing is that we need to empower people in the rural communities to have access to everything that makes life comfortable.
And perhaps even people who want to come from urban centers to go into farming.
Gladly leave the urban centers. If you are in some other countries where people will live in the rural place, maybe come to work in the urban center because there's a train service, and within an hour, comfortable train service, you are where you want to go. Within Lagos alone, from Surulere to Lagos Island, you know what it takes, you know the hassles. So what we need to do is to decentralize development, decentralize provision of basic amenities, make people who live in the rural area not feel like we are not part of the country. People who live in the peri-urban, I mean, there are parts of Lagos that once you mention people will say, God forbid, and that should not be the case.
Okay, madam.
Well, my is that even in the urban centers, development is still not sufficient. There's still a lot of pressures on it. So it has to be both ways. The urban centers should also have fair share of proper development. We should have enough roads. We should have enough health centers. In population commission, we come across a lot. We even see people who say we don't even know we can register our children free of charge. That's the first identity a human being has, your birth registration. And you don't even know you could do it free of charge, because sometimes we don't have centers to put our registration centers. And then you talk of rural, which is, they are really down there. But even the urban is also choked up. Some people are living in the urban, they would have been better off in the rural areas. So it all boils down to infrastructures, and the population, the weight is really heavy on the limited infrastructure we have. It is not just government alone. This is what I want to say. It is you and I, it is everybody. We must learn to invest in our environment ourselves, in our children, particularly the teenage girl. She's the seed of the nation. Don't destroy her. She will do you good.
Thank you so much for coming on this morning.
Please permit me to congratulate the people of Turkey for standing up robustly in defense of their democracy. And this is what we need to do everywhere. Any disruption in the democratic process sets us far, far back. So I congratulate the people of Turkey for...
That's talking about the attempted coup there. Okay, thank you so much for coming on this morning. We've been having a chat with the research analyst, Sulaiman Arigbabu, and of course the Commissioner, National Population Commission, Abimbola Salu Ondeng. Thank you so much for being here. And so we'll just take a quick break, and Sunrise will be back in a moment.